Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jonathan Fuentes, and this is my YouTube channel that's dedicated to clearing up common Christian misconceptions. Today we're going to talk about misconceptions that maybe you've heard at least once or twice in your life. The idea goes a little something like this. The Bible's been translated so many different times throughout the years that it's nothing even close to the original. Another way people like to say it is that the Bible has been translated in so many different languages throughout the years that it's been lost in translation. For example, it started off in Hebrew, then they translated to Greek, then they translated to Latin, then they translated to French, and then German, and then Chinese, and then English, Old English, then English, and so on. I think this is a fairly common objection that I've actually heard many times in my life. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that the New Testament was actually written in Greek. So, if we had any of the early Greek manuscripts, we would be able to take them directly and translate them from Greek to English. The only question is, do we? As a matter of fact, not only do we have at least one early Greek manuscript of the New Testament, but we have over 5,800 of them. And not only in Greek, but we have over 10,000 in Latin and over 9,000 in other ancient languages. However, I really don't want to focus on the Greek ones. Now up to this point, I've been very careful in using my words. I've been saying early copies of the Greek manuscripts, and that's because we actually don't have the originals. Many of the earliest copies of the New Testament were actually written on papyrus. Papyrus is a plant-based material that was used to write on because of how accessible it was in those earlier days. However, papyrus really isn't too durable and didn't really last too much time, so that's why they didn't last long. However, once they started making copies, they were able to write it on a better material. As a matter of fact, the earliest fragment of the Greek manuscript that we have to this day is called P52. Now this is a fragment from the book of John, and this is actually dated to be written around the year 125 AD. That's just 30 years within the lifespan of John the disciple himself. Just for comparison, let's look at other ancient manuscripts that we have. From Caesar, we have about 10 copies, and the earliest copy is dated within 1,000 years of the original. For Aristotle, we have about 49 copies. The earliest one is dated within 1,400 years of the original. For Homer, we have about 643 copies. The earliest copy is dated within 500 years of the original. None of these even come close to what we have for the New Testament. For those other examples, no one really even argues though whether or not those copies are fake or if they stray way too far from the originals. Now one question still remains. Since we don't actually have the originals, how do we know that the copies we have today are accurate enough from what the originals said? One fact that gets thrown around a lot is that if you actually gather up all of the Greek manuscripts, you'll find a total of 400,000 plus differences or errors inside of them. Now, when you first hear this, it can actually be kind of hard to believe, because like I said, it is a fact or it is the truth. But in reality, whenever someone offers this, they're only giving you part of the truth. It is true that there are over 400,000 differences in the manuscripts. However, 70% of those can actually be chalked up to spelling or grammar mistakes. And the rest of it can be chalked up to scribes forgetting where they were when they were copying, or maybe not being the best scribes. There's many various things that could have happened, but they'll actually take away from the meaning that was intended in the originals. We actually have Greek scholars that whenever they read the manuscripts, they can see clearly how these mistakes were made. The same way that you and I would be able to do it with English, they can do it in the Greek. So yes, there are a lot of errors in the manuscript, but none of them actually change the meaning of what was actually said. And the reason we know this is because there are so many copies that were scattered throughout time and the area, and when we gather them all together, they all still say the same thing. In fact, it would actually be kind of scary if we were able to gather up all of the manuscripts and they were all 100% identical. That would actually be some sort of proof that there was some sort of central power involved that was involved of burning or disposing or getting rid of any version that they didn't want there to be, and just making copies of the one that they wanted to preserve. Because of all the errors that we do see in the Greek manuscripts, we're able to trust it that much more. In the description, I'm actually going to leave a link to 2 videos that go more into depth about the 400,000 errors and discrepancies that we talked about today. I wanted to give more of a brief outline, a brief introduction to it. The first video I'm going to link is roughly about 14 minutes. The guy goes way more in depth than I did right now. And the second video is about an hour long. This guy goes more into depth about every single version and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I like the guy a lot. I would actually recommend subscribing to the second, well, both of them. But anyways, if you guys want to know more about the 400,000 errors, feel free to check out those links in the description. Anyways, I hope I did a pretty good job answering the misconception. Just a quick summarize. We can actually go back to the Greek manuscripts and translate it directly from Greek to English, so we don't have to worry about it being lost in all these different language translations. And also, we have very early copies of the original that were scattered throughout the area, throughout the different countries, throughout different centuries, and when we gather them up all together, we can see that they all have the same meaning and they all say the same thing. Yes, there are differences, but it's because of those differences that we can see that there was no tampering, there was no central power, and it really should give us confidence and trust to know that God has really preserved His Word throughout the 2,000 years. Anyways guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and comment down below. Let me know what other misconceptions you would like me to answer. Feel free to subscribe as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, and God bless you guys.